In a huge glass mansion on the edge of a quiet city lived a billionaire named Mr. Harrison, a man known on television and in business halls as cold, strong, and unbeatable. Yet inside his own home there was no warmth and no laughter, only silence that felt heavy like thick air before a storm, because his young son Leo was deaf and never spoke. And from the day Leo was born, the house had slowly turned into a place where sound did not matter and feelings were pushed aside. Mr. Harrison had tried to fix everything with money, as he always did. He bought the best toys, the best rooms, the best doctors, and later the best nannies from famous schools in different countries. Women who came with perfect papers and big smiles and confident voices. But the moment they met Leo, their confidence slowly faded. Leo did not look at them. He did not answer them. He did not smile. He pushed toys away and threw books on the floor. Sometimes he locked himself inside rooms and refused to come out. And when he felt too much fear or anger, he screamed without sound, his mouth open, his face red, his small hand shaking. The nannies tried everything they had learned. Hand games, picture cards, strict rules, soft rules, singing, clapping, patience, anger, kindness, distance, closeness. Nothing worked. One by one they failed and left the mansion with tired faces and quiet shame. And every time another nanny left, Mr. Harrison felt more angry, not at them, but at the situation he could not control. He blamed doctors, teachers, even fate, but never himself. He worked longer hours and came home later, hoping money would solve the problem if he gave it more time, but the house only grew colder. Staff walked softly and avoided the upper floor where Leo stayed. Doors stayed closed, lights stayed dim, and Leo grew lonelier with every passing day. One night after a long business dinner, Mr. Harrison could not sleep and went to his private office, where walls were made of dark wood and glass. He sat alone with a drink he did not taste and turned on the security screens that showed every corner of the mansion. He told himself he was just checking, but deep inside he was searching for something he could not name. His eyes moved from empty halls to quiet rooms until one screen made him freeze. It showed the long hallway outside Leo's bedroom, where the lights were low and shadows stretched across the floor. Leo was there, sitting on the cold marble floor with his back against the wall, his knees pulled to his chest. He was rocking back and forth slowly like a small boat on dark water. His hands covered his ears, even though he could not hear, and his eyes were wide and lost. Mr. Harrison felt a tight pain in his chest as he watched his son alone while the mansion slept. No nanny was there, no guard, no nurse. The hallway was empty and silent. Leo's mouth opened as if he was crying out, but no sound came, only breath and fear. Mr. Harrison stood up from his chair, his heart beating fast, but he did not move toward the door. Instead, he kept watching the screen, as if stuck. Minutes passed, and Leo kept rocking, and the silence felt louder than any noise. Then something unexpected happened. From the far end of the hallway, another figure appeared on the screen. It was not a nanny and not a guard. It was the quiet maid, the one almost no one noticed. Her name was Rosa, though most people did not even know it. She wore a simple uniform and carried a cleaning cloth and bucket. She had been working late, as always, wiping floors that already looked clean. She walked slowly, pushing her cart, when she noticed Leo sitting on the floor. She stopped moving and stood still for a moment, as if thinking. The camera caught the small change in her face, the soft worry, the gentle pause. Instead of calling for help or walking away, she quietly placed her bucket down. She did not rush and did not speak. She slowly walked toward Leo, step by step, careful not to scare him. Mr. Harrison leaned closer to the screen, his breath held. He had never seen any staff member approach Leo without fear or instructions. Rosa did something different. She sat on the floor a few steps away from Leo, not too close, not too far, and waited. She did not touch him. She did not wave her hands or point. She simply sat there, calm and patient. Leo noticed her movement and stopped rocking for a second. His eyes shifted toward her and then away. Rosa stayed still, her hands resting on her knees, her face soft. Seconds felt like minutes as the two sat in silence. The hallway light reflected on the marble floor, making everything look unreal, like a dream. Mr. Harrison felt confusion and anger rise inside him. Who allowed a maid near his son? Why was she not calling for help? But before he could react, Rosa slowly moved one hand and gently placed it flat on the floor, then tapped twice very softly. Leo's eyes returned to her hand. His breathing slowed just a little. Rosa smiled, not a big smile, but a small one full of kindness. She tapped again, then pointed to herself, then to Leo without words. Something changed in Leo's face, a tiny shift, almost invisible. He stopped rocking completely and leaned forward just a bit. The screen showed his small hand, slowly reaching toward the floor, mirroring her tap. Mr. Harrison felt his heart stop for a moment. No nanny had ever gotten a response like that. The camera showed Leo looking directly at Rosa's face, not with fear or anger, but with curiosity. Rosa nodded as if she understood something deep and unspoken. She stayed with him like that for a long time, until Leo relaxed his shoulders and rested his head against the wall. Still silent but no longer alone, Mr. Harrison did not know how long he stood there watching. He forgot the drink in his hand, forgot the late hour, forgot everything except the strange scene on the screen. A maid and a child sitting in silence, yet somehow connected. A connection no money, no training, no power had been able to create. And in that moment, something inside the billionaire cracked. Because for the first time, he felt that maybe the problem was not that no one could reach his son, but that no one had truly tried to understand him. And as the camera continued to record, the quiet moment, Mr. Harrison realized that the smallest and quietest person in his house might be the one about to change everything. Rosa did not know that night had been watched from a dark office far away. She only knew that a small boy sat alone on a cold floor and that something inside her would not allow her to walk past him. After that night, she returned to her work as usual before sunrise, cleaning hallways, polishing glass, and moving quietly like a shadow. The mansion woke up slowly with staff moving fast and speaking in low voices. When the nannies arrived that morning, they talked about schedules, lessons, and rules as if nothing had happened. But something had changed for Leo. When Rosa passed the hallway outside his room pushing her cart, Leo stood near the door watching her with careful eyes. He did not smile and he did not wave, but he watched her every step. One of the nannies noticed and frowned. She stepped between them and closed the door quickly. Rosa lowered her eyes and kept walking, saying nothing. The nannies did not like Rosa even before that night. To them, she was invisible until she became a problem. They whispered that she was too quiet, too slow, and too close to the child. One nanny said she was filling Leo's head with bad habits. Another said she was crossing her limits. Rosa heard the whispers but stayed silent as always, because silence was something she understood very well. She had learned long ago that words were not always safe. That day, Leo refused to join his lessons. He threw his books and pushed his chair until it fell. The nannies tried to calm him but failed again. Frustration filled the room, and one nanny finally stormed out, saying she could not work like this. Leo sat on the floor, hugging his knees, his eyes searching the room as if looking for someone specific. When Rosa later came to clean the room after the mess, she found Leo still there. No one had bothered to help him up. She hesitated at the door, knowing the rules, but then she slowly stepped inside. She did not touch Leo. She only sat on the floor a few steps away and placed a small folded cloth in front of him. She gently opened it to show a simple drawing she had made with a pen during her break. It was not perfect, just a house, a sun, and two stick figures holding hands. Leo stared at it for a long moment, then reached out and touched the paper with one finger. Rosa smiled softly and nodded as if he had spoken a whole sentence. She left quietly after that, but Leo kept the drawing. Later that evening, Mr. Harrison was called into the learning room because Leo refused dinner and would not move. When Mr. Harrison arrived, he saw his son holding a piece of cloth paper tightly in his hand. Anger rose in him, and he demanded to know who gave it to Leo. The nannies blamed Rosa, immediately saying she distracted the child and broke the rules. Mr. Harrison's face hardened, and he ordered Rosa to come to his office at once. Rosa walked into the office with her hands folded and her eyes down. She expected to be fired. She had been fired before in other places for much smaller reasons. Mr. Harrison asked her why she went near his son without permission. Rosa spoke quietly, saying she only sat with him and drew something to calm him. She did not defend herself or argue. Her voice was calm but strong. Mr. Harrison felt something strange hearing her speak. It was not fear, it was honesty. He told her to leave and wait for his decision. That night, Leo cried without sound again, but this time he did not rock alone. He pressed the drawing to his chest and slept on the floor until morning. The next day, another nanny quit, saying the child was impossible. Mr. Harrison stood in the hallway, watching staff move around like pieces on a board, and felt tired in a way he had never felt before. Against his usual judgment, he ordered Rosa to stay near Leo under supervision just to observe. The nannies were angry and insulted. They felt replaced by a maid. Rosa was nervous but grateful. She stayed close but never forced herself on Leo. She followed his lead, sitting when he sat, moving when he moved, always calm, always slow. She used small gestures and simple drawings and never raised her voice. Days passed and Leo began to wait for her. He stood by the door when he heard her cart roll closer, feeling the vibration through the floor. He pointed at papers and colors when he wanted to draw. The nannies watched in disbelief as Leo slowly became less angry. But instead of learning from Rosa, they grew more jealous. They complained to Mr. Harrison, saying she was dangerous, that she was manipulating the child. Mr. Harrison watched the cameras again and again and saw something the others did not see. He saw patience, he saw respect, and he saw his son looking alive for the first time. Still, he struggled with his pride and fear. He invited a famous child expert to the mansion, hoping to prove that Rosa was only luck and not skill. The expert arrived with many tools and charts and spoke loudly and confidently. Leo reacted badly and locked himself in the bathroom, screaming without sound. Everyone panicked except Rosa. She sat outside the door and slid a piece of paper under it, with a simple drawing of the hallway and herself sitting there waiting. After a long time, the door opened slowly, and Leo came out holding the paper. The expert stood shocked and silent. That moment changed everything for Mr. Harrison. But it also brought trouble, because now the nannies felt truly threatened. That night, one of them accused Rosa of stealing and trying to replace them. Lies spread quickly, and Rosa was called again to the office. This time, the room felt heavier, colder. Mr. Harrison asked her about her past and why she understood his son so well. Rosa took a deep breath and for the first time told a part of her story. She spoke about growing up poor, about her younger brother, who was also deaf, and how no one listened to him until it was too late. She said she was not special. She only knew how painful it was to be unseen. The room fell silent. Mr. Harrison felt guilt crash into him like a wave. He dismissed the lies and warned the nannies to respect Rosa. Still, danger hung in the air because not everyone was ready to accept that the quiet maid was becoming the most important person in the mansion. And while Leo sat beside Rosa, drawing his first real smile, something dark was already forming behind closed doors, waiting for the right moment to strike. The change in Leo did not happen fast, but it was clear enough to make everyone uneasy, especially the nannies who had once believed they controlled the child's world. Because now Leo no longer cried the moment Rosa entered the room, and he no longer pushed chairs or threw books when she sat nearby. Instead, he watched her closely, as if her movements told a story his ears could not hear. Rosa kept her distance and never broke the rules, but she became a quiet center in Leo's days. She brought no toys from outside and made no promises. She only brought time and patience. She drew simple pictures on scrap paper and let Leo choose the colors. She used her hands slowly to show feelings like happy, sad, tired, and scared. Leo began to copy her without knowing he was learning something new. Mr. Harrison noticed these changes through the cameras and through reports he never fully trusted. Yet a strange fear grew inside him. Because if Rosa truly reached Leo, then it meant all his money and power had failed where kindness had succeeded. And that truth was hard for him to face. He allowed Rosa to stay close but never publicly praised her and never fully protected her. This silence gave space for trouble to grow. One afternoon, a nanny named Clara, who had always hated Rosa, decided to test her limits. She hid Leo's drawing papers and colors, knowing he would panic without them. When Leo could not find them, he became upset, his breathing fast, his hands shaking. The nannies pretended not to notice and waited for him to break. Rosa saw the signs and felt her heart tighten. She searched calmly and then sat with Leo, showing him her empty hands to tell him she did not take them. Leo's eyes filled with tears, and he hit the floor once in anger. Rosa gently placed her hand flat on the ground and waited. After a long moment, Leo copied her again and slowly calmed down. Later, Mr. Harrison was told that Leo had a bad moment, and the nannies blamed Rosa, saying she had spoiled him and made him weak. Mr. Harrison did not answer, but the doubt returned stronger than before. That night, Rosa went home exhausted, carrying fear like a weight on her back. She wondered if she should leave before things became worse. But when she remembered Leo's eyes searching for her, she knew she could not walk away. The next day, something unexpected happened that pushed everything forward. Leo, for the first time, followed Rosa outside the learning room and into the small indoor garden near the glass wall. He had never done this before. The sunlight touched his face, and he stopped as if frozen. Rosa stood beside him and drew a sun on paper, then pointed at the sky. Leo looked up and then back at the paper, connecting the two slowly. A guard saw this and reported it to Mr. Harrison with surprise in his voice. Mr. Harrison rushed to the garden quietly and watched from behind a glass door. He saw his son standing in the light, not hiding, not screaming, just observing. And he saw Rosa kneel beside him, not leading but guiding. Something deep inside him shifted, but before he could step forward, a loud noise echoed through the hall when a metal tray fell. Leo panicked, instantly covering his ears and dropping to the ground. The nannies froze, unsure what to do. Rosa moved without thinking and stepped between Leo and the noise, blocking his view and kneeling low to his level. She used her hands and slow breathing to calm him, and after a painful minute, Leo clung to her sleeve. Mr. Harrison felt his chest tighten because Leo had never reached for anyone before, not even him. Later that day, Mr. Harrison called a private meeting with the senior staff and announced that Rosa would now officially assist with Leo under his direct order. The nannies reacted with shock and quiet anger. Clara's face went pale and her eyes burned with hate. She nodded, but inside she planned revenge. Rosa thanked Mr. Harrison quietly and returned to work, knowing this change made her a bigger target. Over the next days, Leo learned his first true signs for water, food, and rest. He began to sleep better and stopped hurting himself. Mr. Harrison tried to spend more time watching and less time ordering. But guilt followed him everywhere, especially when he realized Leo responded to Rosa faster than to him. One evening, Mr. Harrison tried to copy Rosa's method and sit quietly with Leo, but he grew impatient too quickly and stood up. Leo turned away, hurt and confused. Mr. Harrison felt like a stranger in his own house. While progress grew, danger grew too. Clara and another nanny decided to make Rosa look careless. They left a cleaning chemical bottle unlocked near the learning room and waited. When a guard found it, they accused Rosa of risking the child's life. The accusation spread fast, and Rosa was pulled away from Leo suddenly. Leo screamed without sound, pounding the door as she was taken. Mr. Harrison rushed in and saw his son in full panic, worse than ever before. Something broke inside him, and he demanded the truth. Cameras were checked, and the lie was exposed. Clara was fired immediately and escorted out. The other nanny resigned in fear. Rosa was shaken, but safe. Mr. Harrison apologized to her for the first time, his voice low and honest. He told her he should have protected her sooner. That night, Leo refused to sleep unless Rosa was nearby. Mr. Harrison allowed it, sitting across the room watching them. He saw Leo fall asleep, holding the edge of Rosa's sleeve like a lifeline. In that moment, Mr. Harrison understood that Rosa was not replacing him, but showing him the path he had ignored. Yet Evan's hope filled the room. A new challenge waited ahead. Because Leo's progress was about to face the outside world, and not everyone would accept a quiet maid as the key to a billionaire's son. And the next step would test trust, courage, and love more than anything before. The next challenge came sooner than anyone expected, and it arrived quietly, like a shadow moving across a bright room. Because Mr. Harrison decided that Leo could not stay hidden inside the mansion forever, and announced that a small private evaluation would be held with outside specialists to see Leo's progress. He told himself it was for Leo's future, but deep inside he feared that if the world saw his son as broken, it would confirm his worst guilt. Rosa felt nervous when she heard the plan because she knew Leo trusted her, but the outside world was loud, confusing, and cruel in ways even silence could not protect him from. The day of the evaluation, the mansion felt tense. Guards stood straighter, staff whispered less, and the air felt tight. Leo sensed the change immediately and became restless, his hands moving more than usual, his eyes darting toward doors. Rosa stayed close and showed him simple drawings of what would happen: a room, chairs, people sitting, and then leaving. Leo nodded slowly, though fear still lived in his eyes. When the specialists arrived, they brought cases, papers, and sharp smiles. They spoke quickly and loudly, as if Leo could hear them, and when they entered the room, Leo froze, his body stiff, his breathing shallow. Rosa sat beside him, grounding him with slow movements, but one specialist frowned and said she should step back so they could see Leo's real behavior. Mr. Harrison hesitated and for a painful second said nothing. Rosa slowly moved back, though her heart screamed. Without her, Leo shut down completely. He curled inward and refused to look at anyone. The specialists whispered notes and exchanged looks that made Mr. Harrison's stomach drop. One of them said, Leo showed severe limits and little connection. Mr. Harrison felt anger rise and suddenly spoke, saying they were wrong and that Leo had made progress. The specialists asked for proof, and Mr. Harrison looked toward Rosa, then back at Leo, torn between pride and fear. Finally, he asked Rosa to demonstrate. She stepped forward calmly and sat where Leo could see her face. She used simple signs and drawings and waited. Slowly, Leo responded. He touched the paper, then pointed to himself, then to her. The room fell silent, and the specialists watched in shock as Leo communicated in his own way. One of them admitted quietly that this was unexpected and asked how long Rosa had trained. Rosa answered honestly, saying she had no training, only experience and patience. The evaluation ended with mixed opinions, but one truth was clear: Leo could connect when he felt safe. After they left, Mr. Harrison thanked Rosa again, but his face showed worry because he knew this was only the beginning. News traveled fast among the elite, and whispers began about the strange maid who reached the billionaire's deaf son. Some praised her, others doubted her, and some wanted her removed. Pressure came from business partners and family members who said a maid had no place guiding an heir. Mr. Harrison felt torn between protecting his son and protecting his image. One evening, his sister visited and watched Rosa with cold eyes. She warned him that trust placed in the wrong person could destroy everything. Rosa felt the change immediately. She was watched more closely, her actions questioned, and her past quietly investigated. Leo sensed the tension and became clingy, refusing to be apart from her, even for moments. One night after a long argument with his sister, Mr. Harrison made a painful decision. He told Rosa that for a short time Leo would work with a professional therapist, without her present to see if progress could stand alone. Rosa listened quietly and nodded, though her heart broke. The next morning, Leo was taken to a bright room with a new therapist, and Rosa was kept outside. The moment the door closed, Leo panicked, his hands shaking, his breathing wild. He screamed without sound, hitting the walls. Rosa stood helpless on the other side, tears in her eyes. Mr. Harrison watched from the camera and felt sick as minutes passed with no improvement. Suddenly, Leo ran toward the door and collapsed against it, sliding down to the floor, holding the gap under the door where Rosa's shadow showed. He pressed his face to the floor, searching for her. Something inside Mr. Harrison finally snapped. He rushed in and ended the session, immediately ignoring the therapist's protests. He knelt beside Leo for the first time in years and tried to comfort him, but Leo pushed him away and reached only for Rosa. Mr. Harrison stepped back ashamed and allowed Rosa to hold Leo as he cried silently against her shoulder. Later that night, Mr. Harrison sat alone, thinking of all the times he had chosen control over care and image over love. He realized that Leo did not need to be fixed, he needed to be understood. The next day, Mr. Harrison announced that Rosa would remain Leo's primary support and that outside experts would work with her, not replace her. This decision caused anger among some and respect among others, but Mr. Harrison no longer cared. However, peace did not last long because danger returned in a new form. A reporter somehow learned about Leo and Rosa and tried to sneak photos onto the property. Guards stopped them, but the threat of exposure shook everyone. Leo reacted badly to the sudden chaos, hiding under a table and refusing to come out. Rosa stayed with him for hours, using drawings and touch to calm him. Mr. Harrison watched and realized how fragile Leo's world still was and how easily it could be destroyed. That night, Mr. Harrison made a promise to himself to protect his son no matter the cost, even if it meant standing against powerful people. But as Rosa tucked Leo into bed, unaware of the storms forming outside the mansion, she felt a deep worry in her chest because she knew love alone might not be enough for what was coming next. And while Leo slept holding her hand tightly, a new test waited ahead, one that would push trust, loyalty, and courage to their limits and decide whether this fragile hope would survive or shatter forever. The days after the failed therapy session felt heavy and uncertain, like the calm before a storm. Because even though Mr. Harrison had finally chosen Leo over his image, the world outside the mansion was no longer quiet. Rumors spread among powerful people and business circles about the billionaire's deaf son and the maid who guided him. Some spoke with kindness, but others with doubt and hidden plans. Mr. Harrison increased security and ordered the staff to speak to no one. But tension lived in every hallway, and Leo felt it deeply. He became afraid of doors closing suddenly and loud footsteps echoing on marble floors. Rosa stayed close, reminding him through gentle signs and drawings that he was safe. Yet she also felt watched and judged more than ever before. One afternoon, Mr. Harrison received a letter that shook him deeply. It came from a distant family trust committee that controlled part of Leo's future inheritance. The letter said they wanted a formal review of Leo's condition and environment and questioned whether a maid should have such influence over an heir. Mr. Harrison felt anger burn inside him, but also fear because this committee had power he could not simply ignore. If they decided Leo was unfit, they could change everything. That night, Mr. Harrison did not sleep and walked the halls, watching Leo's room through the glass door. He saw Rosa sitting beside Leo, showing him a simple drawing of a tree growing stronger with deep roots. Leo traced the roots with his finger and smiled softly. That image stayed in Mr. Harrison's mind as he made a painful decision. He told Rosa about the committee review and the risk it carried. Rosa listened quietly, her face calm though her heart raced. She understood that powerful people rarely accepted simple truths. She told Mr. Harrison she would step back if needed to protect Leo. Her words hit him harder than any threat because he realized she was willing to lose everything for his son. The review day arrived with cold precision. 3 committee members arrived dressed in sharp suits carrying files and questions. They observed Leo from a distance and spoke about him as if he were not in the room. Leo sensed their eyes and shrank closer to Rosa. One member asked Rosa to step away so they could see Leo alone. Mr. Harrison hesitated, feeling old habits pull at him, but then he shook his head and said Rosa would stay. The members exchanged looks and wrote notes. They asked Leo questions he could not hear and waited for answers that would never come. Frustration grew on their faces, and one of them whispered that the child showed dependency. Rosa calmly asked permission to respond and then gently guided Leo using drawings and signs. Leo answered simple questions about colors, feelings, and objects. The room grew quiet as the members watched a child they believed unreachable show understanding. Still, one member argued that Rosa's presence proved Leo could not function without her. Mr. Harrison felt rage rise and spoke firmly, saying all children depend on someone until they learn. That was when the meeting turned sharp and uncomfortable. After hours, the committee left without a clear decision, promising to return with their judgment. When the door closed, Leo collapsed into Rosa's arms, exhausted and trembling. Rosa held him until his breathing slowed. Mr. Harrison watched with tears in his eyes, knowing the fight was far from over. That evening, Rosa considered leaving quietly before things became worse. But when Leo refused to sleep without her, she stayed. Days later, something unexpected happened that changed the path of everything. Leo woke up one morning, upset and restless, unable to calm himself, even with Rosa's help. He pointed repeatedly to the garden window and made a sign Rosa did not recognize. She tried different drawings, but Leo grew more frustrated. Mr. Harrison joined them, and for the first time did not take control, but sat quietly watching. He noticed Leo pointing to a bird outside the window and then to his chest. Mr. Harrison slowly pointed to his own chest and then to the bird, and Leo nodded excitedly. Rosa realized Leo was trying to express a feeling, not a thing. She drew a heart and pointed to the bird, and Leo smiled widely and touched the heart. It was a breakthrough moment because Leo was expressing emotion, not just need. Mr. Harrison felt something open inside him, and he joined them on the floor, drawing clumsy pictures that made Leo laugh silently. This moment marked a turning point for Mr. Harrison as a father, but joy did not erase danger. The committee returned sooner than expected with a final demand. They wanted Leo observed in a public controlled setting without Rosa present to test independence. The risk was high, but refusal could mean losing control of Leo's future. Mr. Harrison felt torn apart by the choice. Rosa saw his pain and made the hardest decision of her life. She told him she would agree to step back temporarily if it protected Leo long term. Mr. Harrison argued, but Rosa remained firm, saying trust meant believing Leo could grow even when afraid. The day arrived, and Leo was taken to a quiet public learning center with professionals and guards. Rosa stayed behind watching through a live feed, her hands shaking. Leo entered the room and panic hit him immediately. He searched for Rosa and froze when he could not find her. Minutes felt like hours as Leo struggled, but then something remarkable happened. He took a paper and drew the tree with deep roots just like Rosa had shown him. He placed his hand on the drawing and slowly calmed himself. Rosa covered her mouth in shock and tears. Mr. Harrison stood frozen, realizing Leo carried her lessons inside him now. The professionals watched amazed as Leo used signs and drawings to express himself without Rosa present. It was not perfect, and it was not easy, but it was real. When the session ended, Leo ran out searching, and when he saw Rosa, he collapsed into her arms, crying silently but strong. The committee could no longer deny the truth. Days later, their final decision arrived, stating that Leo showed growth and that Rosa's role was essential, not harmful. Mr. Harrison felt relief wash over him like rain after drought, but he also felt humility. He called Rosa into his office and offered her a permanent position as Leo's guardian guide with full respect and protection. Rosa accepted with quiet tears, knowing her life had changed forever. Yet even in this victory, a new challenge waited ahead because Leo was ready for the world beyond the mansion, and the next step would test not just his courage but the strength of everyone who loved him. And as Rosa held Leo's hand, looking toward a future once thought impossible, she knew the hardest part was still to come. The weeks after the committee decision felt different inside the mansion, as if fresh air had finally entered rooms that were closed for years. Because Mr. Harrison no longer walked with anger in his shoulders, and Leo no longer felt like a secret that needed to be hidden. Rosa officially became Leo's guardian guide, and her role was written into plan schedules as security orders. Yet titles did not change who she was, and she continued to move quietly, focusing only on Leo's needs. The next step was something Mr. Harrison both feared and hoped for, sending Leo outside the mansion, not for tests or reviews but for real life. A small private learning center agreed to accept Leo for short hours with strong support and clear rules. The night before the first day, Leo could not sleep. He paced the room holding Rosa's sleeve, his eyes full of questions. Rosa sat with him on the floor, drawing the road from the mansion to the center and back again, showing that he would always return. She drew herself waiting at the end of the road, and Leo traced the picture again and again until his breathing slowed. Mr. Harrison watched quietly, feeling pride and fear mix inside him. The first morning they arrived early before noise filled the streets. Leo held Rosa's hand tightly as guards opened the gate. The world outside felt huge and bright and unpredictable. At the center, the staff welcomed them gently, but Leo froze when he saw other children moving, talking, and laughing without sound to him. He covered his ears and pulled back. Rosa knelt beside him and used slow signs reminding him of safety and choice. Leo hesitated, then took a step forward, then another. Those steps felt bigger than any business deal Mr. Harrison had ever made. The first days were short and hard. Leo stayed near the walls and refused to sit in group activities. Some children stared, others ignored him. One boy pointed and laughed without understanding, and Leo flinched, shrinking inward. Rosa wanted to rush to protect him, but she remembered her promise to guide, not shield. She sat nearby, showing calm and strength through her posture. Slowly, Leo found a quiet corner with paper and colors and began to draw. A girl from the group noticed and sat near him, drawing her own picture without speaking. Their drawings touched edges on the floor, and Leo glanced at her, surprised but not afraid. This small moment became the seed of something new. Days passed and Leo began to recognize routines and faces he trusted. He learned where to sit and when to rest. Rosa stayed present but allowed space, stepping back when Leo showed confidence. Mr. Harrison watched from a distance, learning patience the hard way. But just as progress seemed steady, trouble returned from an unexpected place. Leo's mother, who had lived away for years, requested a visit after hearing about the changes. Her return brought old wounds and fear because she had left when Leo was very young, unable to handle his silence and her own guilt. Mr. Harrison felt anger and doubt, but knew Leo deserved the truth. When she arrived, the mansion filled with tension again. Leo did not recognize her and felt confused by her tears and sudden closeness. She tried to hug him, and Leo panicked, pushing away and hiding behind Rosa. The mother felt hurt and accused Rosa of replacing her. Words were said that reopened pain and confusion. Leo reacted strongly, screaming without sound and locking himself in the bathroom. Rosa sat outside the door using drawings and gentle taps, just like the first night years ago. Slowly, Leo calmed and opened the door holding a drawing of himself between two figures, one tall, one small, both reaching out. Rosa understood he was expressing confusion, not rejection. She helped Mr. Harrison and the mother understand that trust could not be forced and love needed time. The mother realized how much she had missed and chose to step back slowly instead of pushing forward. This choice prevented another deep break. Weeks later, Leo faced his biggest challenge yet when the Learning Center planned. A small open day where parents and guests could watch activities. The noise, the movement, and the eyes watching felt overwhelming. Leo became anxious days before drawing dark shapes and tearing paper. Rosa noticed and helped him prepare by drawing the events step by step, including a quiet exit plan. On the day itself, Leo entered holding his drawing like armor. The room filled with people and movement, and his body tensed. For a moment, it seemed too much, but then he spotted the girl who drew beside him, and she waved softly. Leo took a breath and sat down. He participated only a little, but he stayed, and that was enough. When applause broke out at the end, Leo jumped and panicked, but did not collapse. Instead, he covered his ears and looked to Rosa, who showed him the sign for strong, and Leo nodded. Mr. Harrison felt tears fall freely because his son was not broken. He was brave. Later that evening, Leo did something no one expected. He walked to Mr. Harrison and took his hand, placing it over his heart and then over his own. It was clumsy and unsure, but clear. Mr. Harrison knelt down crying, silently realizing this was Leo's way of saying, "I feel you, I trust you." This moment healed something deep between them. Yet Rosa knew that growth brought new risks because the world could be unkind and progress fragile. She began teaching Leo signs for danger and help in choice, empowering him to protect himself. Mr. Harrison supported these lessons, understanding now that control was not protection. As Leo grew stronger, Rosa faced her own fear because she knew one day Leo would not need her the same way. This thought brought both pride and sadness. One evening, as they sat drawing together, Leo surprised her by drawing her, holding his hand and then drawing a path forward where she stood behind him smiling. Rosa felt tears rise because Leo was showing understanding of change. He was learning independence without fear. As the season changed and leaves fell outside the mansion, Leo stood at the window calmer and taller than before. His world was still quiet but no longer empty. And as Rosa watched him, she knew the final test was coming, the moment when Leo would step fully into his own voice. Without sound, and the last part of their journey would decide what true love really meant, letting go without leaving. And with that truth waiting just ahead, the story moved toward its final chapter, where everything they had built would be tested one last time.